Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Jennifer Jackson, and it is so great to be here with you today on this webinar, 5 Steps to Move from Pain to Peace, Trauma to Transformation During Divorce. I'm thrilled that you're here. I know we all have busy lives, and it's hard to fit things like this into your day. And I really want to honor you for setting aside some time today to learn about a powerful 5-step process that has dramatically changed the lives of my clients and has the potential to change your life as well. So when I watch these things, these webinars, I want to know if I'm in the right place, if this is worth my time. So I start by asking the question, who is this for? If you're anywhere in the process of divorce, and by anywhere, I mean maybe you've all the way from maybe where you've just moved out to several years down the road where your divorce is final, but you're still feeling these feelings. So if you are anywhere in the process of divorce, feeling sad, hurt, angry, alone, anxious, guilty, betrayed, or stuck in any way, yet somewhere inside, you know this crisis is actually an exciting opportunity for deep healing, personal growth, and transformation, then this presentation is for you. Does this sound like you? You want to move on and create a beautiful new life, but you feel stuck. You don't know how to get there. Maybe you lie awake at night, replaying horrible conversations in your mind, worrying about how the divorce will affect your kids, wondering how you're going to make it financially, questioning if you're even making the right decisions. Or maybe you feel like your current pain is triggering old wounds. Maybe you want to forgive and move on. You don't know how. That just feels so far away right now. If any of these feel like you, I want you to know that you are not alone and help is right here. In the next 45 minutes or so, you're going to learn a powerful process to calm the emotional storm. Reclaim your sleep and well-being. Stop that broken record of obsessive thoughts and fears. Move toward forgiveness so you can be free. Shift your perspective so you can move forward. Heal old wounds that are being triggered, and create and step into that beautiful life you've always imagined for yourself. My promise to you is that in this presentation, I will lay out a step-by-step path to move from pain to peace, trauma to transformation. Before I lay out that path, I just want to share a little bit about my personal story. About a decade ago, I had a teaching job I adored. I loved the kids, their parents, and my work community. I put in what I considered to be 150% effort and thought of it as my forever job. Then something unfortunate happened, and suddenly, unexpectedly, I was pushed out. This job I thought I would have forever was no more. I was devastated, humiliated, and full of a rage like I have never known. As Brené Brown describes in her book, Rising Strong, I was face down in the arena. For the first 6 months, I was depressed. I couldn't get motivated to even sort through the piles that had been my classroom, let alone look for another job. And it didn't really help that my husband had gone back to school that year. So financially, we were in a really tough situation. We had to foreclose on our house and live with a friend for 10 months. It was a really, really tough time. In fact, it felt like a wrecking ball had crashed through my life. My once purpose-filled days became this unrecognizable fog of confusion. And to make matters worse, I got almost no sleep for about 6 months. But in the midst of my suffering, I stumbled upon a mind-body technique that allowed me to reclaim my sleep. The night after my first session, I got a solid 6 hours of sleep, which felt like a miracle to me at the time. And so my healing began. I experienced, explored, and became certified in several mind-body techniques that made all the difference. These techniques allowed me to soothe my emotional pain, stop those obsessive thoughts and fears, heal wounds and disempowering patterns from the past, forgive myself and others, and passionately move my life in a whole new direction. Although it certainly did not feel like it at the time, I now see this dark, painful time in my life as a tremendous gift. My heart had broken. But when hearts break, they also open to transformation. I became a different person. I learned how to forgive myself and others. I became more loving and compassionate. And I finally learned what it meant to love and honor myself, which allowed me to truly hold a loving and sacred space for others. So instead of looking for another teaching job, I opened a healing practice called Discover the Missing Piece, where I could use all I had learned to help others. Over the years, I've helped people overcome insomnia, which is what I started with since that's what I received so much help with, emotional overeating, phobias, childhood traumas, and much, much more. But my heart opens most when someone shows up in the middle of a face-down moment, wanting to rise up, move through it, and come out stronger on the other end. I found I especially connected with and resonated with my divorce clients. In addition to the face-down moment I just described in the introduction, I had also had a divorce before that time. I found that between these two traumatic experiences, I could empathize with many of the things my clients were experiencing. For example, I've experienced that gut-wrenching loneliness, wondering if you'll ever find love again. That heavy curtain of sadness, punctuated by teary outbursts. That furious rage burning within, that can feel scary at times. Those fearful thoughts about the future, that just won't stop. And the anger and shame at being cast aside, rejected, and demeaned. So I took all I had learned moving through my own face-down moments and created my 5-step path of peace, specifically designed to help women move from pain to peace, trauma to transformation during divorce. Here's a note from my client, Karen. To say that I feel fundamentally changed for the better, it's an understatement. Every facet of my life has improved because of Jennifer and her work with me. I now enjoy an easy, natural contentment that is both surprising and delightful. The difference is profound. The process was at times challenging, but the healing that took place was beyond what I had imagined or could have hoped for. I highly recommend that you dive in, roll up your sleeves, and make the commitment to transition from emotionally burdened to emotionally free. The process works on so many levels, and Jennifer is an excellent guide on your personal journey to emotional freedom. So what is my 5-step path of peace? P is process all your emotions deeply. E, extract the gifts from the wreckage. A, author your new story. C, connect the dots to your past. And E, emerge empowered into your new life. So let's look at step 1. P, process all your emotions deeply. There's no doubt about it. Divorce hurts. Whether you were left or did the leaving, whether it was a total shock or you'd seen this coming for years, whether you were betrayed and abandoned by your partner, or the two of you respectfully made a decision to go your separate ways, no matter what the specific circumstances, the ending of a relationship hurts and may involve some of the most painful emotions of your life. Nobody likes to feel painful emotions. As a society, we do everything we can to avoid them. We try to numb them with food, drink, or other substances. We distract ourselves from them with shopping, the media, extra work, or other busyness. We suppress them, project them, deflect them, anything to stop the pain. Now, these strategies may work for a while and might even be okay in small doses, but unprocessed emotions can get trapped in our bodies and cause problems, such as physical pain, disempowering habits such as emotional overeating or smoking or drinking or over-shopping or any other addiction, depression, illnesses, or other disorders such as the severe chronic insomnia I experienced. So the question becomes, how do you process these emotions so they move through your body and don't get trapped? The first step is to simply take a deep breath and acknowledge you have some painful emotions, and with good reason, and you're in good company. It would be unusual if you didn't have some pain right now. The next step is to tune in to which feelings are most intense for you. Is it grief, anger, fear, guilt, shame, some combo, or something else entirely? So I've provided some articles and worksheets exploring the most common divorce emotions. Over the next week, you should receive one a day. Be sure to check your inbox for them and set aside some time to work through them. They're designed to help you more deeply connect to the painful emotions you may be experiencing right now. However, during our time together now, I want to explore a huge key to unsticking emotion, moving on and feeling the freedom to create that beautiful new life you've always dreamed of. It's the power behind my path of peace. So the next step is to use the magic tool of tapping to deeply process your emotions through your body. What is the magic tool of tapping? Magic tool of tapping is a mind-body technique called EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It's probably better known as tapping because it literally involves tapping on the same meridian points used in acupuncture. Tapping looks a little funny and at first seems ridiculously simple. I have to admit, I was first introduced to tapping about 20 years ago. And when someone first told me about it, I thought it was way too simple to work. And besides, I was way too stressed to stop my busy day and actually try it. However, when I went through my crisis and I was at my wit's end, I was reintroduced to it. And this time I listened with an open mind and learned that EFT is a powerful tool with an outstanding record for helping people overcome a wide range of conditions, including PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, emotional overeating, physical pain, fears and phobias, and much, much more. Today, however, we're going to focus on how tapping can help with divorce recovery and explore the science behind the magic. So divorce throws our lives into upheaval. Not only do our emotions explode, but what was once secure becomes insecure. And the future becomes this vast ocean of unknowns. So it's natural to feel fearful, anxious, and emotional when so much change happens at once. In fact, we're wired to feel this way because all this change poses a threat to our well-being. By wired, I mean how our brains are put together. So let's take a look at the three-part human brain and how it evolved. First to develop was the brainstem, and that's that green part at the bottom of this picture here. This is obviously the oldest part of our brain, and it's also called the reptilian brain. And it deals with basic survival issues. Next to develop was the midbrain or limbic system, and that's that part with all the arrows pointing to it. It's above that reptilian brain at the bottom there and inside that squiggly part there. This midbrain or limbic system is also called the mammalian brain or the emotional brain because it deals with emotions, the encoding of emotions, and the long-term storage of emotional events. And we're going to pay special attention to this midbrain today. After millions of years, the neocortex evolved, and that's that squiggly part at the top. This is the part of the brain we most strongly associate with being human. This is where logic, reason, and higher order thinking reside. It's what makes the possibility of learning languages and other high-level skills, it's what makes it possible. Now, you may be familiar with the stress response, which is better known as the fight or flight response. There's a little piece of the limbic system called the amygdala. And the amygdala has the job of keeping us safe. It's often called the body's smoke alarm because the minute the amygdala detects a threat in the environment, it initiates this fight or flight response, which is actually a series of physiological changes designed to protect us. During fight or flight, everything speeds up. Your heart beats faster, more blood is pumped to your arms and legs, your brain waves quicken, stress hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol flood your body, and more changes such as those noted in the picture over here. But basically, everything speeds up to make our ancestors as fast, strong, and alert as possible so they can have the best chance of either fighting a smaller threat or escaping a larger one. Well, this is super helpful whenever you come face to face with a saber-toothed tiger. Not so helpful when you're trying to recover from an emotional ordeal, such as divorce and the events leading up to the breakup. Fight or flight was designed for short-term emergency situations. It was not designed to be used for long periods of time. Unfortunately, during divorce, it's common to remain in fight or flight for months or years on end, which often leads to difficulty sleeping, excessive weight gain or loss, depression, physical pain, or a generalized feeling of fear or anxiety. What tapping does with amazing efficiency is it halts this fight or flight response in its tracks. Remember, the limbic system predates language and logic by millions of years. There it is, that little red piece predating the blue piece of the brain by millions of years. And that means it doesn't understand English, Spanish, Swahili, or any other human language. Although telling yourself to get over it and get on with it may be great advice, the part of the brain controlling the switches for the stress response might not be getting the message. It might be like those old Charlie Brown cartoons. Remember when the teacher spoke, all the kids heard was wah, 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 wah. This is what I picture the limbic system understands when we try to communicate with it using language and logic. Tapping on the meridian points, however, is a form of communication the limbic system can receive and respond to. When the meridian points are tapped, the limbic system receives signals of calm and peace, and it responds by deactivating the stress response. EFT practitioners have been observing this for decades, both within their own bodies and by observing their clients. But for those of us who like proof, we now have scientific research to confirm it. Researchers at Harvard Medical School have studied the effects of acupoint stimulation on midbrain arousal. And they have documented with MRI and PET scans that when certain acupoints are stimulated, the activity in the limbic system associated with stress and fear go way down. They can even see on these PET scans and MRIs, they can see that amygdala waving its red flag of distress, and when these points are stimulated, they see it lowering this flag. Pretty amazing. In 2012, a team of researchers also studied the effects of EFT on cortisol levels. Now we know that cortisol plays a big role in our body's stress. And these researchers found EFT to reduce cortisol levels at an unprecedented rate. So in short, scientific studies have confirmed that EFT reduces the physical symptoms of stress by communicating with the primitive nonverbal limbic system and directing it to call off this fight or flight response. EFT is also known for greatly diminishing the emotional intensity around past traumatic events. Now you can imagine how potentially powerful that is for divorce recovery, since what is a divorce but a bunch of traumatic events? EFT is perhaps most famous for its tremendous success with PTSD, which stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. Up until recently, PTSD was a very difficult condition to treat, but EFT is one modality that has proven to be very successful because of its ability to reduce the emotional intensity around events in the past. So let's look at how that happens. There's a part of the limbic system called the hippocampus, which is involved in categorizing things. As you go about your day, the hippocampus is constantly determining whether the experience you're having is emotionally significant enough to go into long-term storage. Let's imagine it's a typical Tuesday morning, and you're going through your morning routine, and maybe you've had your shower and gotten dressed and are in the middle of your morning cup of coffee. So far, the hippocampus doesn't have much to do. There's nothing unusual going on, and it can sit back and relax and not really categorize anything as particularly emotionally charged. But then, all of a sudden, the phone rings, and on the other end is news that a loved one has been in a serious car accident and is now in critical condition in the ICU. Well, all of a sudden, your amygdala is sounding that smoke alarm, and you can imagine the fear and the sadness and maybe anger that you're feeling, and your heart might be beating faster, and stress hormones are coursing through your body. And what had started out to be a mundane morning, not even worthy of notice, is now categorized as an emotionally charged event and is headed directly into long-term memory storage. And you can see over here on this diagram where that little yellow knob is, there's the amygdala, which encodes emotional aspects of memories, such as the fear and the sadness and the overwhelm and whatever's going on for you with that phone call. Whereas the hippocampus is encoding and transferring this memory to long-term storage. So here's how EFT can help. When you have a memory that hasn't been processed, when you think about that memory, those stressful emotions may come up. So taking that example, maybe it's a month or 2 months or a year down the road, and whenever you think about getting that phone call, you still have that fear and the panic and the overwhelm and the sadness and the anger, whatever emotions are coming up, you feel that in your body. So how an EFT session works is you hold that memory and allow those feelings to come up, and at the same time, you tap on those meridian points. Eventually, your hippocampus gets the message that this trauma is no longer happening, and it can actually move this memory out of the traumatic category and into a more neutral storage compartment. So what had started out, I wish this slide was reversed, but what had started out as high emotion. You can see this red high emotion, the amygdala acting up, and there's anger, fear, excitement, love, hate, disgust, frustration, all of this very high. As you tap on the points, it gradually lowers. And we move to a state of being calm and relaxed as the memory is recategorized. When this happens, clients generally report that this memory that was so highly charged just minutes before now simply feels like a story that happened. Clients say that the memory no longer feels within them, but more beside them. It doesn't erase the story, but it takes away the charge. Another thing the hippocampus and amygdala do is they're constantly comparing what's happening in your present moment to what's already in long-term memory storage. So let's see how this works. So imagine it's 2 months later. And again, you're going through your morning routine. And again, not much is happening. But then this time the phone rings. Now, this is a different phone ringing than before. Before, there might not have been a phone memory stored. But now there is a traumatic memory of a phone ringing stored in long-term storage. And before you even know who's on the other end, you may be starting that stress response. You may be feeling fear and panic, and your heart might be beating faster, stress hormones might be moving through your body. You might be freaking out like Beaker here. In this case, the hippocampus has tagged that sound of the phone, and that phone ringing again, even though it might be someone totally different, is triggering that old memory in storage. But EFT, when we tap and recategorize the memory, we also take the charge off the triggers. So scientists speculate that EFT not only lowers the emotional intensity around particular events, but actually permanently alters the neural pathways in your brain. When conditioned fear pathways to the limbic system are eliminated, similar stimuli no longer produce the same responses. In other words, EFT is actually able to rewire the brain so that events held in storage no longer get triggered the same way. Here's a really clear example of this. I had a client who came in several years ago for insomnia. Up until 8 years before our first appointment, she had slept fine, like an average person. But 8 years before, her husband had died in bed from a heart attack. And ever since this time, even though by the time I met her, she had gotten really good grief counseling and had become a content single woman and had gotten good therapy, but there was one big problem. Ever since this time, every time she tried to go to bed between 10 and 11, she would be awake until between 2 and 3 every morning for the past 8 years. Well, she came to see me, and really within a very short time, because of this magical tool of tapping, we were able to tap on all the emotions that came up around that horrible night. The fear, the panic, the overwhelm, the guilt at having slept through the first bit of it, the sadness at losing him, the fear that if she let go and actually fell asleep, the same thing might happen to her. So we tapped on this, and after just 1, maybe 2 sessions, she was able to sleep just like she had before. Maybe not every night is perfect, but she was able to fall asleep at a normal hour and stay asleep for the night. So EFT works powerfully on 3 different levels. It reduces the physical symptoms of stress by calling off or halting a stress response. It dramatically reduces the emotional intensity around past traumatic events by sending signals of calm and peace to the part of the brain storing the event, so it actually gets recategorized. And it rewires the brain to respond differently to future situations by moving events from the traumatic category into a more neutral category in long-term memory storage. Once these events are recategorized, they are no longer triggered in the same way by current events. I imagine you can see how this might be useful in divorce recovery, reducing stress, reducing the traumatic feelings around these past events that have led up to your breakup, and rewiring the brain to experience things differently so you're no longer triggered by so many things. EFT, it feels magical. Clients often begin a session feeling agitated and upset and end the session feeling peaceful and grounded. Many of my clients say, one session is worth years of talk therapy. During a session, anger can find forgiveness, grief can find acceptance, fear can find calm, guilt can find forgiveness of self, and shame can find recognition that whatever happened, it doesn't make you a bad person. Here's a note from my client, Steve. EFT is off the charts. I'm a different person than I was a couple months ago. When I try to think about the issues I came in for, I realize they're gone. The heavy feelings that had been weighing me down for so long seem to be permanently erased from my consciousness by this amazing technology. When I think about all the time and money I've spent over the years on different therapies and supplements, I realize I could have saved so much if I had just started here. I feel so good all the time now. So if you're interested in learning more about this magical technique, be sure to attend my low-cost small group introductory workshop called Tapping into Peace, where I'll demonstrate the technique and then offer mini coaching to all attendees. Generally, we have 4 to 6, maybe 8 attendees, so everyone gets a turn. This is different than watching EFT videos or on YouTube because you will be guided through your specific issues, not a generic script designed to reach millions of people. My workshop attendees have often told me that they've tried those tapping videos, but they weren't nearly as effective as coming to the workshop and getting guided. So be sure and join the Facebook group so you'll be alerted to these workshops because they are a super powerful way to really get started on this path. So that was step 1, P, process all your emotions deeply. And that's the one we're going to go most into. The next 4 steps I'm going to move through much more quickly. So we're going to actually cover steps 2 and 3 on the passive piece together. Step 2 is E, extract the gifts from the wreckage. And A is author your new story. So the very first step is to simply tell your story the way you see it to a compassionate listener. Dr. Lissa Rankin, MD, says in Psychology Today, telling your story while being witnessed with loving attention by someone who cares may be the most powerful medicine on earth. Not only does this turn on the body's innate self-repair mechanisms, but it also relaxes your nervous system and helps heal your mind of depression, anxiety, fear, anger, and feelings of disconnection. Sharing your story as you see it is a great start. And the next step is to see it for what it is, which is a story that happened. During my crisis period, I shared in the introduction, I unconsciously walked around believing there was only one way to view my story. I had been wronged. That was fact. Everyone I told agreed with me. You can imagine my surprise when my practitioner heard my story for the first time, did not nod her head sympathetically and join my list of supporters. Instead, she said, okay, now picture rewriting that story to one of empowerment. What story, I thought? I just told you the truth. And what do you mean empowerment? I was wronged. We all tell ourselves stories to make meaning out of our experiences. Our stories interpret actual events through our personal lens. It's amazing how different people's memories of the same event can be. When my husband and his sisters reminisce about something that took place during their childhood, it can be hard to determine what truly happened since their interpretations are all so different. It turns out our interpretations or stories of what happened have far more impact on our lives than actual events. Events themselves don't have meaning. We assign them meaning with our interpretations. Let's take a simple, everyday example. Imagine you've left a voicemail for your friend to get together sometime in the next week. But 3 days later, she hasn't responded. You could interpret this simple scenario in many ways. You may realize she's super busy and be neutral about it, or even feel empathetic. Or you may feel like she's snubbing or ignoring you and feel sad or even angry about this. Or maybe you think she hasn't responded because something horrible has happened to her, and suddenly you move into fear and worry that something awful has happened to your friend. All of this from the simple non-action of one friend. You can imagine the variety of interpretations possible with the complex events leading up to divorce. So research has shown that every thought creates microscopic changes in the structure of our brain. And whenever we have a thought, our brain cells connect with each other. And the more we repeat a thought, the denser these neural connections become. Over time, the stories we repeatedly tell ourselves become beliefs. And these beliefs become the blueprints that shape all of our present and future experiences, such as our health, wealth, relationships, and careers. Well, this is actually good news. Although we can't go back and change the original events, we all have the power to change our interpretation of what happened. You may be thinking, but this is what happened. I can't change reality. You're right. You can't change what happened, but you can change your personal reality. We all view reality from our personal lens. If we change that lens, we change what we see. Since we can choose our lens, and our lens dramatically affects our present and future, doesn't it make sense to choose the most empowering lens available? We all have a lifetime of stories we have used to define who we are. Some have been empowering, some have not. To think about rewriting all your disempowering stories at once can be overwhelming. Where do you even begin? Your divorce story is the perfect place to start. It's looming large, it has your attention, and it most likely contains threads to your other stories too. One of the most powerful tools for changing this story is to look for the gifts. At first, it may feel as though a wrecking ball has just crashed through your life, leaving only piles of rubble in its wake. But I promise you that buried within are gifts and treasures if you choose to look for them. What? Some of you may be protesting. How can there possibly be gifts and treasures in this heap? You might just have to trust me on this. Some treasures may be easy to find. Others may be buried deep beneath the surface. But keep looking. Finding and acknowledging these gifts is one of the most powerful steps you can take to rewrite your divorce story into one of self-growth and empowerment. Start by simply asking, what are the gifts? Now, of course, I don't know your specific situation as I would if I were your personal coach, but here are some ideas that might speak to you. If you are betrayed, abused, or mistreated, you deserve better. You are now free to work on attracting better people and situations into your life. You may suddenly find yourself with time to do things you've always wanted to do. Maybe you've spent all your time on being a mother or a wife, and you've never had time for yourself. But now this time freedom is a gift. If your bad behavior brought about this situation, acknowledge it was your soul's cry for help. If you're now getting help or about to get help, consider it a gift. This situation may be a catalyst for healing old wounds and changing old patterns that have kept you stuck for years or decades. Finding and healing these wounds is a gift for your future. Now, everyone can claim this gift. No matter what you're going through, it's a tremendous opportunity for self-growth. After walking through this fire, you will never be the same and will look back on your divorce story as a turning point in your life. If you can think of no other gifts for your situation, claim this one right now to be true, even if you can't see it or feel it yet. Once you've claimed your gifts, notice how different this new perspective feels in your body. Really tune into it. It probably not only feels lighter and more peaceful, but you can imagine the different signals these thoughts and feelings are now sending throughout your body. They are beginning to rewire neural pathways and reinform trillions of cells with more positive, empowering information. When you fully embrace these gifts and have shifted the way you view your situation, you're well on your way to authoring your new story of empowerment. Speaking new words and thinking new thoughts are powerful shifts we can all make. I strongly urge you to set aside some time after this program to extract the gifts from the wreckage and begin telling a new, more empowered story. However, I have to admit, it's hard to fully do this without getting our subconscious mind on board. Tapping is one technique that has been shown to powerfully communicate with the subconscious mind, so the shifts you want to make can actually happen. So those were steps 2 and 3 of the path of peace. Now we're going to look at step 4, which is C, connect the dots to your past. Connecting the dots to your past is one of the most important aspects of healing divorce pain. A big reason divorces are so painful is that they reopen all those old wounds. All the losses, rejections, disappointments, anxieties, hurts, and self-doubts stored up since childhood suddenly get triggered all at once. Unfortunately, for a time, this seems to multiply current pain exponentially. The beauty, however, is that all the old wounds you've been carrying around for years or decades now rise to the surface so they can heal. Healing old wounds is how you break debilitating patterns and create new, more fulfilling pathways for yourself. Connecting the dots to the past is probably my favorite part of the whole process because it's so powerful and life-changing. No matter what old skeletons are in your closet, we can shine the light on them. The techniques I use are particularly effective for clearing traumatic experiences from the past. Here's a note from my client, Susan. Jennifer helped me immeasurably during a time of huge transitions and great stress, including separation from my husband, the death of my father, a physical injury, and extra stress at work. When we began, I felt overwhelmed and depressed, physically and emotionally injured. With each visit, we unearthed root causes of my fears, anxiety, and traumatic experiences hidden deep within. Sometimes I had no idea where the memories came from as I had buried them so long ago. Jennifer was always calm, professional, and understanding, never judging me or my experiences. Slowly, I could feel myself grounding again and a new me emerging. So that was C, connect the dots to your past. Now we're looking at the final step on the path of peace, which is E, emerge empowered into your new life. Once you've cleared past wounds and found some peace and stability in the present, you're ready to create and step into your new empowered life. You may be familiar with the law of attraction, creative visualization, goal setting, affirmations, and other powerful creation techniques. These are amazing techniques if your subconscious mind aligns with what you want to create. However, if there are blocks in your subconscious, it can be frustrating. You may even believe these techniques don't work at all or don't work for you. When we work with EFT and other techniques, we can get in touch with and clear these subconscious blocks. And when your conscious and subconscious mind are in alignment, these powerful creation techniques work. And you can emerge empowered into your beautiful new life. So let's recap my 5-step path to move from pain to peace, trauma to transformation during divorce. P is process all your emotions deeply. E, extract the gifts from the wreckage. A, author your new story. C, connect the dots to your past. And E, emerge empowered into your new life. Those are the exact steps. However, without the powerful mind-body techniques and a guide to lead the way, they are harder to take and much less effective. So I'm offering 3 steps to really get you started. First of all, I invite you to join our loving and supportive Facebook group called Women Finding Peace in the Pieces of Divorce, Separation, and Breakup. Here you can connect with and be supported by other women moving through similar situations. You will find out you are not alone and that we are all in this together. I also invite you to sign up for the next Tapping into Peace workshop. Here you will learn how to do this powerful technique in an intimate small group setting. You'll receive individual coaching and guidance. You'll connect with other like-minded women moving through similar situations. And you'll leave the workshop feeling more peaceful, grounded, and hopeful. All of this is for a very affordable price. We're talking under $35, cheaper if you get the early bird discounts. So I strongly encourage you to join the Facebook group and check it for the upcoming dates and special Facebook group rates. The other thing you can do is schedule a free heart restoration call. One of my favorite authors, Brené Brown, says, "Shame flourishes in the dark corners of secrecy, silence, and judgment, but dissipates in the light of empathy and connection." On my heart restoration call, you can share your story with a compassionate listener, that would be me, in a safe, confidential space. After we talk for a while, if I feel confident I can meet your needs, I will share about my program, Finding Peace in the Pieces. And whether or not we decide to work together, my goal is for you to leave the call feeling heard, validated, and excited about future possibilities. Here's a note from someone who accepted this free call. I've had incredible results working with Jennifer. I went to her during a very challenging time to get support about anger and grief. My call with Jennifer and her powerful capacity to hold space supported my wholeness journey tremendously. I am forever grateful for the work she brings with grace, presence, and life-changing results. So if you're feeling stuck and deeply desire to move forward, this could be an amazing opportunity for you. Simply go to this address to request your call, or click on the button below. The only thing you have to lose is your pain. Come walk the path of peace with me. Simply click on the button below to schedule a call or join an introductory class to take your first steps. I can't wait to meet you.